meetings being live streamed. I will admit all of our public forums and deputation.
It came up and gave me a message too.
Yeah, everybody does.
And meetings being live streamed. I will admit all of our public forums and deputation. Okay, we are live, and just if anyone is running the live stream, there will be a feedback. So if you can mute the live stream if you're toggling between YouTube and the Zoom meeting.
Thank you, Katie. Right, good morning, everyone. I will get Ruben to open the meeting with the karakia.
Thanks, Tori. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mākina kina ki uta, kia mātaratara ki tai, e he ake ana te ātākura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei, moriora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Ruben. Now, before we start our meeting this morning, I'd just like to acknowledge the passing of Peter Ramsden, kaumātua and senior over at Kurarata and advocate for the community. Just a little whakatauki here. Ko te pau, te kai hauri, I te rā, ko te mata, te kai hauri, I te aoranga. Night is the bringer of day and death is the bringer of life. We just acknowledge Peter Ramsden and his family at this time. He was a good friend of the board and a great advocate for Kurarata. Just a moment's silence. Kia ora. Thank you, everyone. Right, so we'll start off the agenda this morning with apologies. At this stage, I don't have any apologies, anything that I need to be aware of. Everyone seems fine. Declarations of interest, as per usual, we will take this throughout the meeting. So if anyone does find that they've got a declaration of interest, please let me know. We'll go on to the confirmation of previous minutes. That was in December, a wee while ago. So anyone need to bring up anything for the minutes? No, if we're happy with how they are, I'll ask for a mover and seconder that they be accepted.
I'm happy to move.
Thank you, Ruben. And a seconder? Scotty, thank you. I can see your hand there. So moved by Ruben, seconded by Scott. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, Jamie from Tyrone, thank you. So that is carried, thank you. Right, so just bear with me, everybody. I have got multiple screens in front of me. If I'm not looking at the camera, it's because it is next to all the other screens that have my agenda and other things for the day. So we'll go on with public forum this morning. So I'm going to mute myself. I'll ask Paul.
Yes.
You're there. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
Hope you've kept relatively dry this morning.
So far, so
good.
good.
Weekend.
Yes.
I will let you carry on. I'll put myself on mute and you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to come and say hello and say thank you for the funding that was given to our trust, Te Puna Auha, for the mural that we've put on the side of the Bundy's building at 9 Norwich. It overlooks our site. If you haven't seen it already, I really encourage you to go past there. It's a beautiful mural. Hemi Karako is the artist, and he's done a fantastic job. And I think all the Ngāti Wheki and the Karako whānau, we were quite pleased with it. I know certainly our group is quite pleased with it. And so just thank you to the board for the funds, the $4,000 that you contributed. And I think we got a little bit more through Life in Vacant Spaces. One of the funds they put us on to also helped contribute to that. So thank you very much for all of that. That's really all I had to say, unless anyone had some questions about the mural, that sort of thing.
Does anyone have any questions?
No questions, but I agree. It looks stunning. So good. So good work. Good bit of community art there.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, just to comment, Tori, please.
Yeah, Tyrone?
Kia ora, Paul. So thank you. Like it's awesome when people just get them, just go and do stuff. I mean, we love to support that, and I mean, that's just the heart of what good community is. Just people seeing an opportunity to do something positive and doing it. So appreciated. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Now, Paul, since it was such a quick overview, I did actually present a really good picture of that mural to council on Thursday. So I'll just quickly share. I hope Liz and everybody doesn't mind. I'm taking over your spot, but I'll just share what I did present to council because it was well received. And hey, I thought it was a fantastic wee blurb that was got for us. So there's a new mural at Littleton painted by Te Hape and Ngāti Wheki artist Hime Karako. The mural was commissioned by Tipuna Aha, sorry if I got that wrong, Littleton Trust Board. And our board was pleased to support this project and funding from the Discretionary Response Fund. The design was inspired by a whakatauki or proverb, I walk backwards into the future with my eyes fixed on the past. It represents the people of Waitaha, Ke Te Mamaui, Kai Tahu, and includes the weaving of our culture, Māori and Pākehā, encompassed with faith and the knowing our past, we will connect successfully with the shared future. So look, I thought that was fantastic and the mural is stunning. So no, thank you for everything that's gone in behind that and your team getting in behind and making it look beautiful. It's a fantastic space.
Yeah, thank you. We were just really happy that it could all come together. And yeah, that we got so much support, not just from the community board, from LPC, from, various, the Bundys, everyone really. We met little to no resistance trying to get this going. And it was just fantastic to have a good group effort.
Yeah, no, hopefully more group efforts like that come forward in the future. So no, thank you, Paul. We appreciate your time this morning and a fantastic way to start off our morning. So thank you.
Cheers.
Right. Next up, we have Jenny. Jenny, are you with us this morning? I can see you're on the screen, so I'll wait till you've got unmuted.
Unmuted, Jenny, there you go.
Morning, Jenny. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I have Chris Nee with me, who's actually the next person in the forum, but having just talked to her, we think it would be better if she presented first. Is that okay with you?
That is fine. So I will put myself on mute and let you guys take the floor. Thank you.
Good morning, all. Thanks for letting us meet with you again. It's been a while since we met in Akaroa. Sorry I've held the lease up for Cass Bay, but I felt that it was very necessary to get the landscape and history report and conservation report in before we signed any lease on Cass Bay. And it is going to be quite, I'm not sure what the right word is, but it will impact on what our aspirations are for Cass Bay for cadets and in turn for the Cass Bay residents as well. A couple of questions or three questions for the board. Have members of the board been to the site at Cass Bay at all or before or?
Yeah.
I can see some nodding their heads, but yes, they have.
Yes.
Would you like to go over the site and see what our ideas and aspirations are for the site? For those that have never been to Cass Bay, the old Steadfast site or the old Army Depot at Cass Bay. And the other couple of things, have you seen and read the Landscape History and Conservation Report, which is only 195 pages. It's very wordy, but yeah, that one. And have you seen our council leases? And do you understand the implications between the report and the council lease? From my point of view, and I think the residents' point of view, although the lease and the report are weighted in the council's favour, I'm sure we can all work together to get a satisfactory outcome. The lease and the report are all care, no responsibility. I feel they're all care, no responsibility. Yeah, for the council. And both us and the residents will need to do a lot of fundraising for the building work that needs to be done, not only to upgrade the buildings to a reasonable standard, but to improve. I asked Jenny to send on the Cass Bay refurbishment project as far as the cadets were concerned, with the extension of the drill hall, which would be just for accommodation for our cadets, with us losing what's coined as the garage to the residents for their meeting place, which is currently one of our accommodation areas. We're desperately in need of building more accommodation, or a different building for accommodation, which will be at the moment out the back of the drill hall, so directly behind, oh sorry, should I say an extension of the drill hall out towards Pony Point, should I say the west? Yeah, out right on that back wall, end wall, which should accommodate up to 60 cadets, which is future-proofing for us, for accommodation-wise, which would mean we would get rid of, no, that's not the right word. We would take out the accommodation that is currently in the drill hall, and all our cadets would be accommodated in that extension of the drill hall. Yeah, it would be purpose-built, no toilets or hand basins or anything in that, because we do have the toilet block, ablution block across the other side of the driveway, which our cadets would use or do use. Has anyone any comments or any questions for me?
I'm just checking to see if anyone has questions. Yeah, Andrew, I'll take your question.
Thank you. So there's been some conversation about possibly increasing the size of the floor space of the building that's intended to be upgraded for community use. And I know there is some, I don't know whether tension would be the right word, between the area that's used for outdoor drill practice and any potential extension of that building. I guess I'm keen to get your view on that, whether all of the outdoor space close to that building is required for those outdoor drills, or whether there is some flexibility around potentially expanding the size of that building slightly forward without that impacting on the drills that take place outside.
Jenny and I have already spoken about that, and Paul Devlin and can't remember who else it was. Oh, Maria.
Maria Adamski.
Maria Adamski. Yeah. So I don't, because it would only be a couple of meters, maybe 3 meters at the very most. Yeah, it may in the future, but hey, we can work around things. The the small amount of parade ground that we're going to lose hopefully won't impact on us greatly. It is only a parade ground. It's not, yeah, if we can build the new accommodation block at the back of the drill hall, that would solve a huge amount of our problems, especially if we take out, or when we take out the accommodation from inside the drill hall. That will give us a bigger area inside the drill hall that we may have to use as a parade ground instead as well, whichever way you want to look at it. Yes, it's lovely to be outside when it's fine, but it's also good to have a big indoor space when the weather is a bit inclement.
All right, so a few things are dependent on each other, clearly. Thanks very much indeed for the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Now, got any other questions? Oh, Tyrone,
Tyrone
sorry,
has-
I do see it. Yep, thanks, Tyrone.
Oh yeah, cheers, Tori. Hey, Chris.
Hi.
Hiya. Thanks for coming to see us. So, Sea Cadets and Cass Bay residents, everyone's completely lined up, eh? Like there's no.
We're not fighting.
Right, you know, it's just everyone's on board.
Good start.
Everyone's totally on
We are
board.
very definite that we would like, we feel this is basically a community space for everyone and that we want to make it work for everyone.
Yeah. We're trying to work together. Well, no, trying's the wrong word. We do work well together. We've always worked together. Yeah, we're not fighting with them. We're just trying to get enough space for both of us, as in the residents and the cadets. Yes, the cadets have used the place for many, many, many years. I mean, I've been associated, as you know, for 40 years this year. So, yeah, I'm very aware of the things the residents have been trying to do over the years that have been hampered because they don't have space.
Yeah.
Or designated space, should I say.
Okay, cool. But like, I mean, as I've always seen, everyone's working together. So, you know, we've just got to be able to negotiate the the thing, and
Yes.
hopefully we'll get the outcome we need. Yep. Cool.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fantastic. If that's the last of the questions for Chris, I'll let Jenny carry on with what you've got. Or is there anything different that you'd like to add?
Seneca, everyone, thank you so much for hearing us again. We, as the Residents Association, really appreciate that. As you are well aware, the community has a need for a community facility, and just an example of that is that I, for the last 2 years, have held the annual morning tea for our elderly residents who are all pretty much in their 70s, 80s, maybe 90, at my house, and it has involved moving a bit of furniture and stuff. But for instance, last year, one of those elderly people fell down my stairs. We really cannot do that again. It's a major safety issue. We've been offered a lease on the garage, otherwise called a carport, shipwright store, girls' accommodation. And it clearly says in the report that it's in a poor state of repair, and that's what I have sent you some information on, clearly showing that it's in a very dilapidated state. In the report, it also says it's only got a moderate historical significance because it's been relocated in haste onto the site, and it's also been converted by the Navy cadets at some stage for their use. So a new frontage has been put on. But I have basically, it's also got microbacterial contamination, and the foundations are sinking in one corner. And I have talked to 2 building companies who basically are saying that as a result of the conservation and historical landscape and conservation report, we are now, and this applies to the Navy cadets, are in an impossible situation because in order to know what we're being offered before we can sign a lease, we would have to come up with plans because they have to go through heritage architects and all sorts of things. That's going to cost us in the region of more than $20,000. We can't raise funds until we have a lease. So we're now in this catch-22 situation whereby the heritage plan is so restrictive on the garage, basically a three-sided. We have to retain the back three walls and the roof line, which literally you can put your finger through the rotting wood on at the moment. We can't extend to the side because there's a shed there which is falling apart, which the Navy cadets have already rebuilt.
Rebuilt that about, I don't know, 25 years ago. We put the front on that garage about 40 years ago, about the time that I started with cadets. We put the front on that garage.
Shed you've rebuilt too. So it's not even original, but we can't move it, and then except in exceptional circumstances. So we can't develop to the side, we can't move the earth. I've just been talking to one building company who said that even to put the services into the building for sewage and electricity, we would need a historical architect's report, and we'd have to consult with the iwi, and well, that's actually the council would have to do all that, but basically both these companies are sort of saying it would be much more cost effective to build new somewhere else, but we have asked the planning team if we could build somewhere else on site, and they basically said no. So really it's been quite a daunting little while since we got this report. Basically for both of us, both groups are pretty much in the same situation. We haven't even got a working building that we can use, so we are in a worse situation than the Navy cadets in that sense. So basically what the Residents Association feel at the moment is that we cannot work with these current restrictions, and we're asking the community board for support to help us work through this system so that we can eventually provide a facility that's going to meet the needs of our growing community for the next 35 years. You got any questions?
I think it's pretty clear. It's a no-win situation on here.
Thank you, Nigel. Any questions? I am aware that we are getting further information coming back from staff very soon. So hopefully we'll have a bit more light on what's going on, and I am aware there's a few things that need to be, sorted out a bit further in detail. So thank you, Chris and Jenny. I do appreciate this is still a little frustrating. We can't move forward just yet, but hopefully we can get to some arrangement very shortly, and what's the best outcome for all parties, both the Residents Association, the residents, and the cadets. So like I say, we'd like to see this move forward. So I am aware that staff are going to get back to us with some more information. So thank you.
Would any of the board like to go to the site and have a look and see what we're talking about? It's one thing saying it over a meeting or even seeing it on paper, to being there and having a look at the situation. Or
when do you want me there?
Yeah, no, I'm keen to be there. So yeah, so there's a few of us that would love to be there.
Yeah,
so,
I'd be keen as well. I mean, reading through that document last night, that was longer than the last book I read. But the images throughout that document, I was surprised that it's still being used. and to be fair, with the amount of holes in the walls and the pigeons that are resident in the buildings and things like that. And then I see the pictures of the bunks and things like that, think, oh my goodness, surely that's not still being slept in.
It's used this weekend.
Yeah, it works really well, but yeah, it's not what you would have at home, put it that way.
It probably doesn't meet code.
No, it probably doesn't meet code now, or probably never has met code, but cadets are tough.
That's, yeah, kia ora, I was a former cadet. That's what it's all about, roughing it. So,
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, you guys got public liability and all the insurance and that up to tickety boo at the moment for the buildings, or not at all?
Cadets have $2 million public liability.
Public liability, okay, but no, the buildings themselves uninsured.
It's the council building, so no.
Oh, because you don't have a lease, so yeah, of course they can't be insured through you guys yet. No, that's right.
Yeah.
And yeah, love to come down and go back through them all and have a look over with you guys.
Wonderful. So if we can get a date sometime, and yeah, that's not a problem. Would be lovely.
No, it sounds good, and it does sound like most of the board would love to be there and be shown around the space. I know a few are quite familiar with it, but others, like myself, haven't been there for quite a long time. So that would be great to have a look through. So no, we'll get that organised, and thank you both for joining us this morning.
Wonderful. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Right. So next up, I have Josh. Is Josh available? Is Josh there?
I'm here.
Morning, Josh. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Great.
I'll put myself on mute, so go for it. Thanks, Josh.
Hello. Just coming to chat with all you guys again about the status of things. We're still striving to get a better relationship between the local mountain bike club and the reserves committee in Urumo, as we've been struggling for about, several years now. Bit frustrating that for several years we have had volunteers that have been taking care of the tracks up there. And we'd been doing that on an informal basis. Back in July, we got asked to stop organizing that work until we could generate a formal agreement. We created a plan and passed that around, but since July, it has not come forward, hasn't been approved, and so things have got run down. There was quite a few complaints around the holidays because the tracks got totally overgrown and were becoming a safety hazard. And yet, I know Jane Harrison was there in November, and I noticed that she's on the call today as well, one of your staff that came in November to try to help us work through that and figure out why we're not moving forward. That was not very well received. And it got pushed off until the new year. There's supposed to be a meeting earlier in February, but that also got canceled. It's been quite frustrating. We have had some progress on a different front. We had a good start of the year meeting with the port company where we agreed on a maintenance plan for the sections of the tracks which are adjacent to the reserve but sit technically on the port company's land. And the group got together and said, yeah, we'd love to take care of those for you. We've organized 2 sessions so far and cleaned that section of track up. I walked up there last night after the rains subsided to have a look at the work that we did, which has been really successful in keeping that water that's been running down there from damaging the tracks, and I'm dealing with that issue. And we just want to do that throughout. So just looking for a way to get past this impasse. Any help that you guys can do. I know Ruben has been following along quite closely with this, and yeah, so I'm just here to kind of report on where we're at and see if there's any questions about how we can move forward with this.
Thank you, Josh. We do understand this is a moving beast, and it is a little frustrating at times, but we appreciate you persevering with the things that you're persevering with. Now, does anyone have any questions for Josh?
It's not really a question, but more of an update, which is just that I've got a couple of points to raise in members exchange around the ability for RMCs to meet in the red traffic light setting.
Okay.
How we might be able to support that.
I'm sure we can go through that later on. Thank you, Ruben. Any further questions for Josh this morning? I know, Josh, the staff are working to get a better handle on things, and I know we're still working through the RMC terms of reference. Terms of reference, so that may help as well. So, no, thanks, Josh, for your time this morning.
Okay, thank you.
And persistence.
Yes, and persistence, definitely. Right. Next on my list, I have Marie. Marie, are you on the call this morning?
Hi.
Morning, Marie.
Morning.
It's good to see you.
It's good to be alive.
Yes. Right. So you have some time. So you just want to start off wherever you're comfortable.
Great, thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko tuhera ki te monga, ko okoruru te awa, ko Contepari te waka, ko Emery te Melmonch, Lalive, Tupuna, ko Marie Haley, Ingoa. I'm making this submission and I'm going to read it. I sent a copy of it late last night to Liz, so hopefully you'll have it. And I hope my internet holds out throughout this. So I make this submission as an individual, as I believe that the Christchurch City Council needs to have a formal record of the events of Cyclone Ruby, December 15th, 2021. Our situation here is not unique, and I recommend that Christchurch City Council works to record the stories of other affected residents to guide future management decisions. My submission is chronological and attaining only to the City Council related issues. I've written several blogs that are available on my website for other information and for photographs. So the events were as follows. In 2016, ECAN immediate steps funding was approved for the Goffs Bay main stream on our property and was fenced under the ownership of Richard Haley. Around 2 years ago, or I think it may be a bit longer, the Goffs Road surface was upgraded, and from that point on, the camber of the road caused water to run from Kitty's Mistake, which is the tight corner above our house, where the road starts to steepen, around the outer wheel track of the road and right down the steep to the next sharp corner, which I estimate is 365 metres down the road. I made complaints about the road state to City Council on multiple occasions. In 2020, funding was approved from City Council for Site of Ecological Significance biodiversity funding and from ECAN immediate steps funding to fence 2 forest blocks and waterways on our property. Fencing was completed in July 2020. On the 10th of December 2021, I made complaints to Christchurch City Council and Fulton Hogan about the state of our road again. I was unable to get my two-wheel drive vehicle out and nearly cancelled a tour due to the state of the road. It was thick mud in many places. Luckily, it dried enough to get the van out, and I left it in Akara as I couldn't guarantee to get it out again in the future. Cyclone Ruby was forecast to bring 100 to 140 millimetres of rain to Banks Peninsula. We had already received 166 millimetres of rain, near continuous precipitation over the 3 weeks prior. On the 15th of December 2021, we measured 270 millimetres of rain in 15 hours, 300 millimetres in 24 hours. Measured in Le Bons Bay, Christchurch City Council reported 170 millimetres of rain and 75 millimetres of rain in 5 hours. This was reported as a 1 in 145 year event. So I'd like to know what it was here in Goffs Bay. At 9 a.m. in the morning, there were large standing puddles. By 2 p.m, our drive was flooded with the culverts on our drive filled with shingle from the road, and water was over our gumboots in 2 rivers down the wheel tracks. At 5 p.m, the neighbour rang to say how bad the road was, but they'd only just got home with slips forming all down the road. During our call, the phone cut out. At some point around 6:30, we watched as the Goffs Bay Road collapsed. taking 2 power poles with it. A waterfall formed off the road end, and then another 2 streams of water started on the other side of the hill above the house, and we were worried that the hill and the 30,000 litre water tank might come down on our house overnight. On the 16th of December, so the next morning, it was still raining and low cloud hid much of the damage. We eventually found that the road collapsing, taken out 130 metres of our road fence, half a hectare of pasture, 100 metres of paddock fence, 65 metres of our driveway, 100 metres of site of ecological biodiversity fencing, half a hectare of 50 to 100-year-old forest, another 100 metres of site of ecological fencing and a gate, a farm track and culvert, another 55 metres of site of ecological significant fencing, another farm track, and dump boulders over 0.8 hectares of pasture, removing mature streamside vegetation and taking out another 100 metres of immediate steps stream fencing and 50 metres of boundary fence. As a side note, that's just the road collapsing. That's the start of the damage on our property. Much of this fencing and forest has simply disappeared. That day we checked on the damage, checked on the stock, and the damage was overwhelming. No driveway, no road, no power, no phone, no internet, and we never have had cell phone coverage. We were completely isolated and had no way to call or get out. Multiple slips, many fences destroyed, no stock-proof paddocks, and our stock water damaged. Around 1 p.m, we were able to get a message to a friend through Messenger to call 111 after finally getting our generator going. We didn't know when the generator might fail, so we rushed to get a message out. By 4 p.m, Tim, the local policeman, arrived, carrying in petrol so that we could keep the generator going. I didn't get to see him, but he was the first to see the damage to our road and reported it to Fulton Hogan, who walked down to see it. On the 17th of December, Orion came in by helicopter to assess the damage to the power. They were the first people I saw. Fulton Hogan cleared the road to the top of our property and then had to stop there. Our access was then a steep walk up to the road. That day, George Macefield arrived at the door, and at the same time, Will Johns and Lyndon Palmer walked up from the bay. It had taken them 2 hours to get here. I didn't get to see them though. On the 18th of December, the Lions Club delivered food packages to each isolated house with a helicopter from rural support. The TV3 film crew flew over our property and filmed the road damage, but they didn't land. And finally, it felt like the scale of the damage was taken seriously. I emailed Andrew Turner at that point asking where the support was from Civil Defence and Christchurch City Council. On the 20th of December, on the Monday, we were hearing reports of neighbours who had to walk home. I felt outraged that there was no assistance. Multiple people were trapped out and had to walk in alone. I received a reply from Andrew Turner at 11 a.m. saying that he had requested and expect a full update from the staff who were out on Banks Peninsula on Saturday as soon as possible, and the lack of information is a concern, and I have escalated that. I'll be in touch as soon as we've been briefed. And he did contact me again that day. At around 4 p.m, I received a phone call while I was in Akaroa from Brendan Winder from Civil Defence. He asked me for a list of residents that should be checked on, and I asked him why it had taken 4 days for Civil Defence response. He says that I should have called 111, and I answered that I did. He said, "Oh, sorry." And I asked if that was all he could do. And his response was, "What do you want me to do about it?" That day, there was an article in Stuff and the press about our situation. And also ECAN's biodiversity ranger came over to assess the damage to our conservation fencing that was completed only last year. And in total, we think we've lost about 750 metres of conservation fencing. That day also, Independent Line Services started to repair the power. and we found a culvert that was exposed on the Goffs Bay Road that my father, Richard Haley, had been asking for 20 years to reduce the storm flow down the road. That day I had an interview with RNZ, and in that article, Christchurch City Council staff member John Fizzle claims that he had called a number of residents in Goffs Bay. No one reports receiving a phone call. On the 21st of December, Paul Devlin, Christchurch City Council Head Ranger, came over to assist us with temporary electric fencing and temporary stop water. That evening, our power was back on, our house water was out, our freezer had stopped working, and the meat was ruined. We had no phone. Fulton Hogan walked in to assess the damage of the road and our access track. There had been a lot of rumours about how the access would be restored and through our property. That day I had my first ever panic attack. I felt isolated and overwhelmed. It's so difficult not to have communication with neighbours or phone. I called Brendan Winder from Civil Defence for help, and he said that there was nothing that they could do. On the 22nd of December, that day I found out that Spark had not lodged my fault from a week ago, that I had lodged with them, and no one was coming to assess the phone. I have to lodge a fault again 1 week after the event without phone or cell phone, but by waiting half a day on Messenger. Civil Defence said that they were chasing it up from their end, but we still needed to lodge a fault with our supplier. And that seemed like madness. Even though I showed them a photo of the snapped phone cables, Spark still wanted to send out a technician to fix it when there was multiple cuts in the bay and we had seen at least 7. So we had no hope of phone at that point for weeks. The 23rd of December, Civil Defence finally arrived 8 days after, and they asked us if we had any immediate concerns. I say that the rockfall risk and the mental health support after the panic attacks. That day, a gate is placed on the road with a padlock, and the padlock turns out not to open. On the 24th of December, a digger has cut a track from the road to the house, so now that we can get goods in and out on the motorbike. But it was still not passable in the wet. The chorus technician came that day to assess the damage, found 2 split cables and repairs them, then finds another one in the neighbour's property and leaves. The 26th of December, I finally get to the far end of our property and find the enormity of the damage, completely overwhelming. 300 metres of immediate steps stream fencing has disappeared, and it looks like major bombs, plural, have gone off in the gentle stream. There is no stream side vegetation left. 27th of December, I finally get to see a neighbour, 12 days after the storm. It is the first in-person contact with any of my neighbours who have experienced the storm event. I received my first contact from John Filsell and an email saying, "Hi Marie, my name is John Filsell, Council's Head of Community Support. Civil Defence suggested that I may contact with you over the holiday period, just checking in, so to speak. I wasn't able to get through on the phone. For peace of mind, could you please return this email letting us know that you are okay?" I reply, "Hi John, it's nice to hear from you. I have an internet-based phone number now. And I supplied that to him. We have no phone. I'm not doing so well. It's a lot of change to take in, and I'm feeling isolated from my community. I'm just being honest. I've had a couple of panic attacks. We've also had problems with the padlock on the gate, and a lot of people have said they can't open it, and so are creating a 4-wheel drive track around the gate. We're going out now to try the road gate, and we'll be back later this afternoon." I do not hear back from him. On the 30th of December, Paul Devlin, Park Ranger, Head of Park Ranger, lends us an in-reach device that allows us to contact emergency services as we don't have a phone, and we're now using a digger and quad bike to restore the farm tracks and access the property down a steep and slippery track. On the 6th of January, my mother, Janice Haley, contacted Tracy McClellan the MP, for assistance with the phone lines. No further repairs or assessments had been attempted since the 24th of December. This was picked up by her office around the 12th. Chorus stated that repairs were delayed due to the safe access of the road. They finally assessed the phone on the 14th of January and said repairs could be months. Thanks to the direct intervention from Tracy's staff, a temporary phone line of 4 new large cables were laid overland and the phone was back on by the 18th of January. And it was an immense relief to find that we'd finally be able to communicate with our neighbours and coordinate repairs. The 7th of January, the padlock that was put on the Goffs Bay Road on Christmas Eve was broken from the start. We took it off and tried to repair it. We returned it about a week later to find that the same broken padlock was then put back on the gate. That day when we found that out, we sent an email to Paul Devon, who immediately arranged the Fulton Hogan staff member to remove it and replace it. It was extremely stressful to have a broken lock on our road with no neighbours to call for help, no phone to call for help, and no road access for emergency services, while undertaking unusual and dangerous emergency repairs and with a 2-year-old. On the 19th of January, Will Todd Hunter and Martin Rutledge of ECAN came to do a preliminary stream survey and find that there is no insect life left in the stream. And it is covered with a native brown algae growing across the stream. That day, Steve Guy, the City Council road manager, calls, and I believe that this is the first phone call that I've had from Christchurch City Council. Steve communicates well, phones and emails and send updates. After he contacts me, I start to relax. On the 20th of January, an automatic notification from Christchurch City Council updated me that the issues that I had complained about prior to the storm on the Goffs Bay Road had been resolved. It seemed like a bad joke. On the 24th of January, RNZ reporters came out to Goffs Bay 24th of January, RNZ report comes out on Goffs Bay situation and the lack of communication from the City Council. On the 25th of January, Andrew Turner emailed. On the 31st of January, Andrew Turner and City Council and Fulton Hogan staff visit. This is our first visit from City Council other than Paul Devlin, Head Ranger. That's close to 7 weeks after the event. By the 10th of February, we have access track that has shingle on it. It's just last week, so that we can safely get a quad bike in and out to the road in wet weather. It is still not safe for a vehicle, and it is difficult to get in and out in the rain with gear and a 2-year-old without getting completely soaked. By the 12th of February, we block the culvert on the road as it is sending water down the road onto our new track and making it almost impassable. The culvert that was missing 20 years ago needs to be replaced urgently to divert this water flow. The 13th of February, yesterday, another 100 metres of rain, 120 actually, of rain fell, and John Filsell calls for the first time to check on our safety. The 14th of February, road access to our neighbours is almost open. This will allow us to retrieve our cattle after nearly 6 weeks. We still have not had any contact from the Christchurch City Council Mayor or the Head of Civil Defence, and I would appreciate that the scale of this event and the resulting situation should be taken seriously. We have not had any contact from the Community Board other than Penelope coming out with Andrew. We have not had any support offered for the major repairs on our land other than from friends and family. No student army, no farming-based organisation, no council assistance to organise volunteers, nor any financial assistance, as is often seen in other major storm events such as the Ashburton floods in 2021. On our 47-hectare property, we have lost 29 fences, over 3 kilometres of fencing, hectares of land that need to be remediated, and with no EQC cover for this. But it is the significant loss to biodiversity and conservation fencing that has been hardest for me. We have lost hectares of native forest and streamside fencing. We've lost all our stream invertebrates and likely most of all the fish life. While the road can be fixed and it might take some months, it will take decades to restore the biodiversity that we have lost. So I just want to thank you all for letting me present that today. And as I said at the start, I do ask you to seek the stories from other people. The main reason that I wanted to present this is that as a storyteller and a historian, I understand that memories fade quickly and timelines fade quickly. And this is a really significant event and it needs to be recorded, and mine is not the worst story. And I'm saying it from an individual because that's the only way I can present this. Thank you. Sorry, thank you, Marie. It is heartbreaking, and I mean, I also know what it's like to have a 2-year-old in tow when things are falling down around you. I was going through the earthquakes with a little one in tow, so I completely sympathise with those emotions and the rawness of everything. So, look, if I could hug you right now, I would. Even though it's COVID and all that kind of stuff. Like I say, I really do sympathise with what you're going through. Thank you. Yeah, we've been through it in other ways. I am aware that we are getting a briefing from staff about the breakdowns and what we need to learn from this once again, and how we can make it better for the future. Because like anyone, like you, we don't want to see this happen to our community again, and to have that remoteness really played out. I'm aware that the rural connectivity group that are setting up cell towers are due to put in a new cell tower. Unfortunately, it's going to be 6 months late for this event, obviously. But hey, that one tower may have been the saving grace, just to have communication with family and neighbours, just to say that, hey, we're okay, we'll batten down the hatches, we'll get through. But to know that somebody else is there and can hear you is a big thing. So hopefully I'll get some update on that, on how far away that is, because yet again, another event has shown that it is really important to have those forms of communication, because it's so easy to lose, a driveway, a road, a cable, and it is important to be able to be connected. So I will take any quick questions or any quick comments if anyone has them. I'm aware that we have given you extra time, Marie, but I know you needed to pass on that story, and we appreciate you doing that.
Thank you.
Andrew, did you want
to? Thank you. Marie, thanks very much indeed for recounting, what is a pretty harrowing story. And I appreciate, the emotion that comes with that. And, as I said, when I came out that day to you and other residents, I can't even begin to understand what it would be like. Been there in the middle of that storm, knowing that infrastructure was crashing down around you, not knowing when it was going to end, not knowing what was going to happen next, and then realizing that this was concentrated on your part of the peninsula, but also not knowing how it affected other people because you couldn't contact them. Yeah, so I fully understand the disappointment. And the need to make sure that this never happens in this way again, particularly in the face of what are likely to be more often and possibly worse events of this type as we confront climate change and its effects as well. As I said at the time, what I saw when I came out that day was worse than I'd expected to see, but some of the work that Fulton Hogan had done on parts of the road network were a lot more and a lot faster than perhaps I'd expected to see as well, particularly thinking of Long Bay Road and some of those other areas there. So, I thank you for taking the time to recount your story in a way that I expect it really resonates with all of us. As you know from the comments I made when I came out, I'm very keen to complete and report a lessons learned exercise at council, and that's been worked on. But I also agree that needs to take into account and needs to hear the views of affected residents. It can't just be from a council point of view, just an introspective view. And as you know, I'm also very keen that we have, once that report has landed and once the time's right, a meeting where residents can get together and we can talk about the report and its conclusions and how we can all work together to make sure that we never end up in this situation again. So, I mean, really, my message is just to say thank you for telling the story today. And I'm sure the community board will have just as much interest as I do in making sure that we learn from this and that we don't see a repeat of it.
I do believe that storytelling is very important.
Yes. Thank you, Andrew. Now, Tyrone, I notice you've got your hand up. If you've got, oh, okay. Tyrone, then Nigel, then we have to move on. Thank you.
Kia ora. Thanks, Tori. Kia ora, Marie. Look, thanks for coming to see us. Like, we really appreciate it. And I mean, the damage is so extensive. I'm amazed that you were able to go through your recounting of the events without completely losing your rag, because it's unbelievably horrendous. Like, the road has been just, I mean, so many slips. Yeah. And I mean, the road is just gone in places, so it would have been terrifying, and my heart goes out to you and your community.
Thank you.
There is, if we, I mean, hindsight's 2020. If there was something that could have been done differently, so the one thing from your perspective would it have been to make the event a civil defence emergency from the get-go?
Look, I don't know what civil defence does, to be honest. My expectations were different to what happened, what played out. I don't know how the policies work.
Okay, that's fair.
My one recommendation is to act with heart, to put well-being above all else. That's my one recommendation. It felt like it was all about infrastructure, and we are resilient people. We know how to live without power. We know how to live without water. We were prepared for all of that. But it was the heart. It was the fact that it was not our well-being that was considered and cared for. There's so many stories, and I don't want to repeat other people's stories for them, but it made me just completely outraged when I heard them.
Thank you, Kia ora.
I know that the well-being and welfare of people have been the feedback I've received so far that needs to be put in a higher priority for anything like this. So yes, Marie, we have heard that already, and we will continue to advocate that that is paramount in any situation. Now, just quickly, Nigel had something, and then we do need to move on. I've got a couple more people that would like to present this morning.
Sure, thank you.
Nigel.
I'd just like to make a personal apology if she feels let down by me and Jamie. I was not aware of the extent of it. I wasn't even here. I think it's a long and hard conversation that we need to have, and the community board needs to have, to make sure that all these pieces get together. And I think it's a conversation with all the affected, and make sure it doesn't happen again. And thank you for your presentation this morning, Marie. It was an awful situation.
Thank you, Nigel. Look, I don't take any personal against from anybody. I think that isolation of where we live has led to so much of this, that it just was not visible, and it still is not visible. And so it's probably a really good opportunity for me to welcome you all over to visit. Please come. I'll make you scones. Come and see it. It is horrendous. We were away for a week's holiday, and I came back and I couldn't believe the size of the slips. It felt like they'd all grown. Please come. We would welcome to see you.
I think we definitely come, but I think we have to bring the scones.
I never give mine.
Good call, Ruben. Good call. Yeah.
And Murray, I've had a lot of conversations with people, Bob Macefield and Murray Johns and the like, and my biggest concern is I do suffer from severe vertigo. I cannot even drive over to a Cane's, and it's not that I don't care, but I really suffer from vertigo. and I don't like telling.
You don't want to come here then.
Eh? I know.
You don't want to come here.
I know.
Yeah.
I've been there as a kid. I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Marie, for your time this morning.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you all.
and we appreciate you keeping us in the loop and what it is like to be on the front face of it all, you know, feeling everything that's going on. So no, hopefully we'll be in touch soon with some more info and ways to move forward. So thank you. Marie. Thank you. Right, and the last one I've got this morning, I'm sorry for the delay, Richard, but we did need to hear from Marie. It was quite important. So have you got your presentation ready to go there?
Yes, ready to go.
Okay, good morning. Right, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, and yeah, just from Colin and I, just to Marie, just that was a heartbreaking story to hear. Sorry. Yeah, I'm on. Right. So I said, my name's Richard Madison. I'm here in my capacity as the manager of Naval Point Club, and I'm joined by the chairman of the board, Colin Locke. On Sunday, the 22nd of January, Christchurch City councillors and Banks Peninsula Community Board members received an email from the chair of the Naval Point Board. This email set out a number of frustrations being experienced by Naval Point Club over a couple of matters, namely the disruption to our operation, especially the haul out through the groundwork required in preparation for the postponed sale GP, and the issue of the breakwater wave attenuation at Naval Point. If I can break each of these down a little and provide a bit more context. Firstly, the haul out. At the time of the email, the re-establishment of the haul out facility appeared to have stalled, without any apparent plan or timetable for us to resume our haul out activities. We also did not and still do not have any certainty of tenure. However, this has been partially mitigated by the fact that we now have been allowed to return with the lease arrangement under negotiation. And I heard Paul Devlin's name being mentioned in dispatches before, and Paul is one of the true blue heroes of this council. He gets the work done. The facility that we provide is the only one available in the wider Christchurch area for the owners of moored craft to remove their vessels from the water. We've been out of action for a number of months and are under significant pressure from a waiting list, which is growing on a daily basis. And just this morning, I've had 2 more requests to haul their boat out. So we're now looking at about 80 boats in the waiting list. When we were first asked to support Sale GP, Christchurch NZ promised compensation for the loss of the haul out operation, but subsequently advised that this would not be possible. Whilst we acknowledge that Christchurch City Council has spent significant amounts of money on the Sale GP site, Naval Point Club has had to absorb approximately $100,000 in additional costs and lost revenue this year alone. Given our turnover is around $350,000 per annum, and we rely on grant funding to break even in even the best years, this is a significant sum of money for a small community club to have to find. The haul out has not been included within the Naval Point redevelopment, despite it being acknowledged as a key aspect of marine recreation. At the time, we were told that Christchurch City Council and Littleton Port Company were going to negotiate a parcel of land in the inner harbour, and that an appropriate alternative haul out would be provided as part of that redevelopment. This has not happened, and we're now advised that LPC are negotiating with a commercial tenant to use that parcel of land. A commercial operation with no do-it-yourself opportunity is not a suitable alternative to the pre-existing haul-out yard. Christchurch City Council staff advise us that they can do nothing to support the retention of an area within the Naval Point redevelopment zone for a haul-out, as it isn't in the plan signed off by this community board. We need to make significant capital expenditure to continue to be able to serve the needs of our community, and the lack of certainty, even for the next few years, makes this difficult to justify. Secondly, the breakwater stroke wave attenuation. Naval Point Club has made an extensive submission to Christchurch City Council on the matter of the proposed breakwater. The current proposal is intended to protect the public ramp and offers no protection to either the proposed hand launch or the Naval Point Club ramps. Christchurch City Council does not seem to think that this is any responsibility of theirs. There is a perception that the Naval Point ramp is private and can only be utilised by paying members of the club. This is simply not true. Anybody can carry their hand launch craft from the public car park and launch using either of the 2 ramps at Naval Point Club, and they frequently do. We restrict vehicle access to the ramps as a matter of safety, no other reason. We have always supported the separation of vehicle and hand launch vessels for this very reason. Moreover, hundreds, if not thousands of Cantabrians use the back ramp, jetty and patio at Naval Point Club in some months for recreation, especially swimming. Areas of Naval Point has invested heavily in this past year to ensure the safety of the public after Christchurch City Council declined to fix serious health and safety issues caused by erosion. We don't charge any of these people to use the facility. I was just wondering, are they not considered public either? With the exception of recently due to COVID, we make our toilet facilities available to these same members of the public. Council does not provide facilities in Magazine Bay. Also, our rubbish bins are used to keep the area clean. All this is paid for by members of Naval Point Club. Council talks about the need to pay someone to manage Naval Point in the future. That's what our team already do. We manage the facility on behalf of all the users, but unless you're down here regularly, you wouldn't see that, as 99% of what we do is done unobtrusively. Rather, we make it work by proper planning and organisation that supports all the user groups. The members of Naval Point are members of the public that have dug in their own pockets for the last 100 years to provide services to the general voting public. Naval Point is a significant metropolitan development, and the whole of Naval Point should be protected by proper wave attenuation. The future. Despite all of the above, we're trying to focus on the positives. Naval Point Club is currently working through an EOI process with CCC. To that end, we've engaged David Allen and GLG Consulting to assist in this process, in addition to working through a new strategic plan for the club. We've entered into a heads of agreement with Te Hapu Ōna Atawheki to facilitate the development of a joint facility on the site. We are very excited by this alliance and see significant benefits in working together in partnership rather than operating independently. We are enthusiastically moving forwards to an exciting new facility at Naval Point. We have attempted to discuss the haul-out operation with LPC to no avail. They are not interested in engaging with us, other than to say that there will be no do-it-yourself work permitted in a commercial yard on LPC land. What we need, though, is support from the community board to retain the haul-out at Naval Point, to enable council staff to provide us with the certainty we all require, and also to support thinking outside the square. Stark Brothers have announced they are selling their business, and the area they currently lease beside what was formerly known as Patchett's Yard should be considered for inclusion within the marine recreation precinct. We all know that land is a finite resource, and that no matter how much we have, there will never be enough for the only all-tide water access facility in Christchurch. Some people with amazing foresight ensured that the Christchurch District Plan has an underlying covenant on the land at Naval Point to ensure that it's retained for the purposes of marine recreation. I'm pleased to answer any other questions you might have.
Thank you, Richard. First of all, we appreciate your time this morning. And can we get a copy of your presentation, because there is quite a few things that we'd like staff to give feedback on, and certainly ideas going forward of what we can do. Now, does anyone have any questions for Richard at this time? No, I think everyone is okay, because like I say, you've given us a lot of information that we would like to go over in the future, and like I say, it's forward to staff for their feedback. So no, thank you for your time this morning, Richard. We do appreciate it, and we do know that this is ongoing. Yeah, Naval Point is a big development, and we are working through that. So no, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. So
actually, Tori, sorry,
yes,
sorry, I'm a bit late to the party. Can I ask Richard a really fast question?
If you must, before I've gone on to the next. Yes, yeah.
Sorry. Kia ora, Richard. Just on the slipway there at Naval Point, were there any particular problems with congestion there over the summer?
Yeah, there's huge issues, Tyrone. Obviously, with some of the land sort of not totally set up yet, and Fort Hogan still having some work sites around the place. Probably not so much over summer, but more so even leading up to Waitangi weekend.
Are they things that are going to resolve themselves, or is there something that we need to take into consideration?
No, it's something that needs to be taken into consideration. I think one of the big arguments that I keep having with council staff is that putting single car parks into an area where you have cars and trailers predominantly is a waste of time and space. You can put 2 cars into a car and trailer spot. You can't put a car and a trailer into single car spots. And at the moment, the latest plan I saw had nearly 2-to-1 single car spots compared to car and trailer spots in an area that is designed for marine recreation.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. Thanks, Tyrone, and thank you, Richard. We appreciate once again your time. Thanks, Tyrone. But we do need to move on. So that is the end of our public forum this morning. Right, next I move on to deputations by appointment, and I have Murray. Is Murray available? There you go, Murray. Good morning. Thank you for being so patient and waiting. We have had quite a bit to listen to this morning, being first meeting back since Christmas. So if you're ready, would you like to start your presentation?
Here and ready. Thank you for the opportunity to present to the community board. This will hopefully be fairly short because I realise there's been a bit of...
Sorry, Murray, I'm having a bit of difficulty hearing you. Is anyone else having difficulty? Can you make yourself louder?
He's a bit quiet.
Can you hear me now? The volume's turned up.
Give it a good old shout then.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Murray. Just speak loud and clear. That'd be fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, the volume's turned right up, so I'll speak loudly. I've been asked to just do a short presentation because Pam Richardson isn't available today, and I understand that you've all seen the planting plan and what we're intending to do on the Pigeon Bay Reserve. Is that correct? You've got a copy of it?
Yes, well, I've seen one. I'm sure it's been passed around to the rest of the board.
Yep.
So thank you, Murray.
It's all good. What we're wanting to do is just to enhance the Pigeon Bay Reserve to beautify it and also encourage more bird life and make it a more attractive area. So we've come up with this planting plan. Pam Richardson's done all the wording on it. Brenda Graham and my wife, Heather, have come up with most of the planting list. Paul Devlin is accessing plants for us, and I've drawn up the site plan. So we've I've compiled the document. So basically what we're asking is for the reserve board just to give approval for what we've done, so that we can go ahead and start purchasing local plants and just starting the planting work once the weather's it's very appropriate for planting at the moment, but once we get into autumn and can start not having to water plants. So that's what we're asking of the board.
Okay, so just on a so Liz, are you there? So what do we do in that regards? We obviously have a delegation that we do approve this sort of stuff, but we haven't got that recommendation here in our officer's recommendations. Do we? Yeah, what's the process?
No,
sorry?
so currently under the terms of reference that you adopted at the beginning of the term in 2019, the delegation actually still sits with the RMC for planting, trees removal, etc., etc. So the RMC actually can go ahead and do that, but I think it is really good that they brought this to the board for the board's information.
Okay, so in our next item on the agenda, do we just, put something in there under the offer, because of course that's got the Pigeon Bay RMC minutes and everything in it. So do we just put something? Sorry, I'm talking about process.
You could do it as part of the deputation, just say that because you have a recommendation to receive the deputation, and you could say thank Murray and also receive the planting plan from Pigeon Bay.
Okay. Before we go on to that, does anyone have any question for Murray there?
Just they are locally sourced seeds, Murray, aren't they?
Sorry, say that again, please.
They're locally sourced plants.
Yes.
Yes.
The intention is to locally source as much planting as we can, and also they'll all be plants that are native to the peninsula.
Yeah, great. No, that's great. No, that's great stuff. Very good
Sounds
work.
Good. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Liz, if we can, under that, Sorry, I've just lost my position on deputations. So now you say, just Liz, just formality, received the deputation and basically said that we're happy to.
Sorry, I was busy talking and it was still muted.
Muted.
Yeah, if you would just like to, perhaps somebody could move in second, and that you receive the deputation. Thank Murray for making the deputation and acknowledge the planting plan which the Pigeon Bay Reserve Management Committee has prepared.
I'd be very happy to move in that direction.
And second it then, seeing you got me before me.
So Jamie and Nigel have both jumped in to say that they move in second that I will just say that the rest of the board are happy with that. A nod or a thumbs up would be great. Thanks, team. But I think we're all really happy to see that goes forward and support them in any way we can. So no, thank you, Liz, and thank you, Jamie and Nigel. And thank you, Murray, for coming along this morning. We appreciate you've put aside an hour or so of your morning to just make sure that this gets put in front of us. So thank you.
I just wonder, Madam Chair, too, if we should just pop back and just look at each of the public forums and make sure that there's nothing that the board actually wants to ask or note about each one. Is that okay?
Okay. Unmute. So before it gets passed on back to everybody, just obviously we would pass on the information that we received in public forum as a standard to staff, from all the presenters, that would go back to appropriate teams or wherever. Do we need to do that separately or just?
I was just wondering, the first one is just for information, so that's okay. But then the second two for Steadfast, whether perhaps you just note that you would like to organise a site visit.
Oh, yes, please.
Yep.
Yes.
And also perhaps I'm wondering, because there's quite a lot of information now with the conservation plan, etc., whether we try and incorporate that with a briefing from the staff at the same time.
Yes,
I'm
sure
that with that.
The team would be happy with that. Like I said, there's a lot of information shared in that one.
Okay, and
does that
Joshua,
mean? Sorry, just on that, Liz. Like, does that mean that the process is going to stall until that happens? Or, I mean, I'm struggling to understand why it's just not. I mean, it just feels like it should just all happen, but it's not, and I just don't get it.
It's my understanding that it's actually stalled anyway at the moment in terms of the leases, because you've heard this morning that the two groups are not happy to sign the leases when it's under those conditions. So that's got to be worked through anyway. So in terms of that, it's stalled anyway.
But so if we were to get a
go, Andrew. Yep.
If we were to get a briefing, how quickly can we do that? Because I mean, I absolutely agree with Tyrone. We do not want this to be stalled any longer than it needs to be. Right. And it might be that the board could provide some guidance or some impetus that would, encourage the groups and the staff to have some particular conversations that might actually allow for some resolution to, what could actually be, I mean, easy is probably the wrong word, but, some things that could be sorted if there was the opportunity for an open discussion and for some discretion and maybe some flexibility on both sides of that discussion to occur.
Yeah, look, we can try and get that organised as soon as we can, because I'm noting that the Cass Bay residents, for instance, asked the board to help them work through the report and try and get a facility that's suitable for them for the future. So, they're asking you to do something. So I think that you need to have that discussion with staff.
Absolutely. The other matter of conservation, and the conservation plan, of course, is a guiding document for a lot of this. It's worth noting that the conservation plan, as I understand it, is actually a draft conservation plan, which hasn't yet been approved. So it worries me to some degree that we're using a draft document which hasn't yet formally been approved as a guiding document that's the cause of some of the problems, some of the issues that we've heard this morning. I've met with staff, I've met with the representatives of the Residents Association, It strikes me that there are some reasonably simple things that could occur that might solve what sounds like it's becoming a bit of an impasse. I'm keen for the board to get involved in that as soon as possible so that we can oil the wheels of actually getting some movement here.
Yeah. Okay. Look, we're trying to organise something, quite quickly. And I'm also aware that the board's only just seen that conservation plan, which was really meaty. They've only seen it from last week. So we'll get things moving on that.
Thank you, Liz. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I reiterate Andrew's comments. So cheers.
Yeah. Thanks, Tyrone and Andrew. Josh, Miriam, obviously there's some information that he brought forward. Obviously we are still having ongoing conversations regarding those things. Liz, RMC information is still coming to the board and conversations are still to be had. Is that, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so we'll
there
carry
is
on
still work going on that.
No, Marie's document that she forwarded this morning, obviously that'll be passed on to staff. And yes, we are very keen to be part of that feedback loop that is regarding the event. I know that is a priority for staff as well to involve us. And as Andrew made comment before, it was Andrew, that residents need to be involved somehow in that feedback as well.
Yeah, definitely. The steps going on with that.
Can I say something to that? There's been a lot of conversations over the years, and nothing seems to move. I think it's really important that we've learned from this event, and that the things get fixed. I mean, this whole thing around civil defence. I've talked to the locals over here, and they absolutely believe that they've been totally let down by civil defence, and civil defence walked away from Peninsula, and they still wanted it. And I heard it was paperwork. It wasn't paperwork. They still want to have input from the local to be involved.
Nigel, we've had this discussion for a while now regarding preparedness in localised areas. And I still think that is highly important for our board and also for the council. Civil defence as a whole is no longer the beast that we remember once upon a time that showed up in yellow overalls and helped dig ditches or whatever it was. But we need to have the community supported in whatever they see as community preparedness. That is one of the board priorities. I think that going forward will be one of the council priorities, knowing that these events are going to be happening more and more frequently, as we see just over the weekend, what's happening on the West Coast. So this conversation isn't going to end. What it looks like in the future will change, but that's when we need to work together with our community, isolated communities or valleys, whatever that looks like, getting prepared at a local level rather than relying on these yellow men in overalls coming forward, because actually a lot of civil defence these days have been put underneath fire service. Fire service in an emergency will be busy dealing with fire service related stuff. So we need to have that ongoing conversation, and I'm sure that information that Marie has forwarded to the board can go to staff and feedback in that loop of this particular event. So no, thank you.
So do you want to send it to staff with a request or the board want to do, or do you want to defer that and have a conversation about this as well? Should we put that into the forward plan to have a conversation sometime?
I think both is very relevant. I mean, it's going to affect us both. Andrew, I do see your hand up. So, Andrew, you wanted to comment on that?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think I made some comments in response to the presentation this morning. Clearly, that lessons learned report needs to land. I'm not absolutely sure where that's at with senior management at council, and we certainly need to find out. Because this work is across a couple of areas. It's community governance, it's well-being, it's civil defence, but also it's infrastructure. We need to be careful it doesn't get siloed, because there are two quite different work streams that play into this space. And of course, what the community don't want to hear is people saying, oh, this isn't my responsibility, this isn't my area, I don't know anything about that. So we need to find a way of bringing it together. And I think that's why it needs to be at the senior management level at council. I'm having some conversations about that at the moment. But the other thing we need to do is to have this public meeting that I talked about. We need to think quite carefully about who the right people to front that would be. I'm mindful of the success that we had with the meeting in Akaroa about the water supply contamination that Helen Beaumont led, and that actually went quite well. We were honest, we apologised, we told people what was happening, and we gave some sort of reassurance that we learned from this and we wouldn't be seeing a repeat of it in future. We probably need to use that as a model for the community conversation. But we also need to be talking about what the residents' expectations actually were and how those residents' expectations weren't met. That probably leads to a conversation about what expectations are realistic in that kind of environment and that kind of situation, and a conversation about how council can better meet reasonable expectations of the residents. That's all about roles and responsibilities as well. But the other thing this throws up, and for me it's a question that's been largely unanswered going right back to the earthquakes, the fires, the floods, the terror attacks, and now this event, is what the actual role of elected members is in these sort of situations. Because clearly there's an expectation on the part of the community that elected members are going to get involved, they're going to show support, they're going to go visiting. And we've heard some criticism of the fact that, you know, we didn't do that. But at the same time, I was never going to go out there, you know, just for a handshaking exercise and for a photo shoot. I was going to go out there for a real visit that had real value to provide real information and answer questions, which meant I was going out there with council staff and was going out there with Fulton Hogan. So, you know, I think we also need to have that wider conversation about what the role of elected members actually is in these sort of situations, and what support we can expect to get from the council organisation in doing that. Because, you know, I didn't even know that John Filsell was going out there, was out there, had been out there until Pam Richardson told me. So if there was an opportunity for me to go visiting with John Filsell and do something useful, I didn't even know about that opportunity until it had passed. So there were some communications issues here as well. And all of my comments are, you know, in a positive light about how we can do things better. I wouldn't want anything I've said to be taken as a criticism of any of the good work that anybody did at that time.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I concur. Yeah, I do agree with what you've said.
Yeah. Look, I've noted it for a future conversation. It's not really appropriate under public forum to start launching into a debate about it, but so I've noted those things for future conversation, and also then the naval point one.
Yep. Okay.
Have we still got them online? Have we still got the public online at the moment?
No.
Yes.
Oh, they're watching via YouTube. However, they're not in the room to via Zoom. So anything
It's a
that is
public
said,
meeting, Scott.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, no, I'll leave it for now.
Okay, just going on regarding Richards, I do think that once we have his written submission, that we can go through points and forward that to staff for.
Forward to staff, yeah.
Yep, I do agree that some of the points that he's raised, would like. I know we have received some feedback on those points, but yes, it'd be good to give more information.
I'll just note that you're going to forward it to staff for response. Thank you.
Can I also just note, Tori, that on a few of those presentations, the head of Rangers name came up, Paul Devlin, in good spirits, and they all applauded him for his efforts. And from what I've seen around the bays, I'd back that up too, mate. So can we just acknowledge him for his efforts?
From the whole board, I think Paul Devlin does a fantastic job, and we appreciate everything he does. He goes above and beyond for a lot of our communities in many different ways. And I do think at some point we do need to acknowledge Paul, whether it be just via a meeting, but actually perhaps next time he is in the room, you know, shout him morning tea. I don't know what we can do to thank him, because I also know our governance team does go above and beyond, but no, Paul Devlin is one of those fantastic people that we just need to lump praise onto. So no, thank you, Paul, and the team.
I was a legend.
Now Nigel, sorry, yeah, he is a legend. Nigel, you did have something just briefly?
Yeah, and it's a positive thing. It's an acknowledgement thing as well. Is that I'd really like it to be recorded that George Mayfield and Will Johns were standout heroes in that event, weather event on the wild side. So I'd be some sort of acknowledgement for those two young men would be fantastic too.
Yeah, no, I do know there was a lot of people involved in what went on in the coming days to rally around and get things organised. I also had emails from Kerry, and she was helping with the Lions, getting other resources ready for the people that were isolated. So there's a lot to come out of that, and I do think there'll be some feedback on the goods and the not so goods. So we'll work through that. Right, are we ready to move on, Liz? Are you happy to move on to the RMCs? Item 7. I'll get that back up on my screen. They are all fairly straightforward. We're just receiving minutes from the RMCs. Anyone have anything to bring up or would like to knowledge. Otherwise, I'll ask for someone to move that we receive those minutes from the RMCs. Sorry, Nigel and Andrew. So Nigel and Andrew.
I'm happy to move.
Okay. Andrew, do you have anything to say?
Second.
Oh, okay. Nigel move and Andrew second that those minutes be received for those RMCs. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Yep. That is carried. So everybody did acknowledge them, Liz. The joys of working with Zoom calls. Right, now on to item 8, the discretionary response fund. Have we got, I see we've got Robin and Tricia and a few others, but I think Tricia, your name is on this report. So good morning. Unmute. And I'll put myself on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, kia ora everyone. Tricia here. I don't know if anyone's got any questions about the Charteris Bay application, or if are you happy with the information that is in the matrix?
Okay, so we've got 2 reports here. One is for the Charteris Bay, and the other one is the Akerau Golf Club. Now, does anyone have any questions for either Tricia, and I assume, Robin, you're the other author of this. Thank you, Robin. Anyone have any questions for either of our staff? No, okay, no questions. Everybody's quite quiet this morning. I think we've had a lot of information given to us. So I ask for a mover, please, for the discretionary response fund.
Happy to move.
Happy to second.
So Scott's happy to move. Ruben's happy to second. All those in favour? All right, there's thumbs up and there's eyes. So, yep, that is carried. So thank you, Trish and Robin. It was a fairly straightforward one this morning that we approved those grants.
Thank you.
So, Liz,
does that mean Liz is going to have like a super good time at the centenary celebrations of the golf club?
Golf club. Hey, shouldn't we all? It is a centenary.
Oh yeah, where's the invite?
Sorry, Liz. Liz is not listening. Okay, she stepped back from the table. No, that is okay. I'm sure the staff will pass on that is all approved. Now, next we have Pen on item 9, the area report.
Great, thanks,
Good morning,
Tori.
Pen.
Good morning, Morena, everybody, koutou. Whoop.
No, I didn't mean to stop the video. I was trying to put myself on mute. So you go ahead.
Oh,
Pen. Is there anything you want to
that's all right. Well, it's a fairly straightforward area report. I would like to point out, and as you're just cruising through it, in item 3, the table of projects that some of the governance team are working on. I'd like to point out the Birdlings Flat LED lighting item that's in there, and you'll learn more about that over the next little while, because it's an exemplary example of collaborating and supporting and working with community in an engagement process that is unfolding via a high quality way to engage with community to get a result, hopefully, that council and the community can live with in terms of the LED lighting. So it's a really good, it's a wonderful example.
I'll talk to that too, Pen. I've been part of this project for a few years now. It came up years ago when they first started talking about LED lighting in the city, and a few locals decided that actually it'd be really good if we could have dark sky. So having the trial, I think, is fantastic outcome, and therefore community can also give feedback as to whether that's good, not good, going to suit the purposes. So the fact that council are being flexible with the outcome, and it's great. And majority of the community that I've heard from are really happy to see how it goes, and you know, it's fantastic. So I thank council staff for being open to the idea of trialling it, and even open to the idea of putting in those dark sky toned lights.
Yes,
it's going to be fantastic, and hey, it could work in other areas of the country. So thank you for all the team and staff that have been behind that and supported that, and the community going forward. It's a good news story, and it'll be good to see what comes out of the trial.
Good process. If we can copy that in other places, it'd be great. Moving
Could
on.
I please just make one comment on that? So I've been involved in this consultation and working with community and staff. It's been a really, really enjoyable process. We did this morning receive a complaint from a resident or from a couple that's gone to the mayor and also to the local police about their concern about safety issues and the dark lights. And we're just working through how to respond to that at the moment. So just a heads up in case you hear about that. It's just one person. The rest of the response has been overwhelmingly positive.
No, thank you, Jane. I do understand that there is a few concerns about the dark sky and even the dark sky lighting and what that looks like, safety reasons. So,
and we are organising a session with the local police to have a drop-in session where people can come in and learn about crime in the area and talk about any of those concerns. So we're, it's an ongoing process of recognising and responding to the community.
Yep, no, thank you, Jane. We appreciate your support and all that. And I'll be happy to help out where I can down in Birdlings Flat. So thank you.
Dory, back to item 3.3, which is the board's submissions.
Yes.
So the board did a great job along with staff on the ECAN bus route one and the ministry one. And today you're going to be considering your draft submission on the Diamond Harbour land. So did you want to do that? Did you want to lead into that now?
Do we want to go that through this? We formalise it through this process?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone, I know we've had discussions via email to get to where we've got to, and I'm just trying to find the right page for the submission. So bear with me. Page 51.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now that's that is the majority of the conclusion. Now, Howard, I do understand you still had some concerns. Now, what we were going to do through this forum is the fact that we approve it in part, but it also gives you a chance to say that you disapprove with our conclusion for the wording, or it gives us a chance to vote on where this has landed, because this hasn't been sent in yet, from my understanding. Is that right, Penelope? It's waiting for us to confirm it before it gets sent in.
I understand. So Liz will probably have more to say about that.
Okay, thanks. There's a nod from Liz. So I'm happy to move that this be sent in as our submission.
Well, before it gets moved, can we have it read live on the meeting, please?
Sorry?
Can we have it read to the meeting, please? I haven't got it in front of me. I can't find it. So can we have the submission read? What the exact current wording is?
And can I just know that I'll sit back from this discussion in as much as the submission is coming to council. So I'm going to be receiving this, so shouldn't be playing part in finalising it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Andrew, no, so just to confirm, Howard, that is in our agenda on page 51, but I can just read the quick submission rather than the introduction. The submission, the board urges the council to place a covenant over Sam's Gully, Morgan's Gully, and the third unnamed gully, and these gullies to be retained in council ownership so that these areas can be classified as a reserve to ensure the long-term protection available. The revegetation of the three gullies and the Indigenous biodiversity of the area should be safeguarded against any future development. Furthermore, the board urges the council to protect the existing walking tracks as identified by the community by easement, so the community can continue to rely on access to these well-used and valued walkways. The board also has concerns about the impacts of future development of this land, especially any large-scale housing initiatives, due to the existing limitations of infrastructure within Diamond Harbour. The wastewater, stormwater, drinking water, education and roading infrastructure is inadequate to support widespread housing development in the area. Due to these limitations and the risk of disruption increase from traffic that would create, the board strongly believes that any plan for future use of the land should prioritise infrastructure needs and limitations and community aspirations. The board believes that it is crucial that the community have an opportunity to shape the outcome of any future land development, and that decisions be made collaboratively. Possibilities such as establishing a retirement village, retail and hospitality venues and or recreational opportunities should be explored and incorporated and have due regard for community feedback. Any development of this land should only take place after comprehensive urban planning for the whole of Diamond Harbour has taken place. The board only supports development of the land if this is able to be undertaken with the safeguards and protections requested above, guaranteed using appropriate mechanisms. The board therefore only supports a sale of all or part of the land to any developer with appropriate legal arrangements in place to ensure this. The board asks the council to ensure protection of the galleys and the community's needs, including adequate infrastructure, are prioritised in its consideration. So that's what we came to, and with all our emails and bounce back. And Katie, I do appreciate you tried to capture the best you could, all the information that was given back. I believe you've captured it quite well. Happy to receive feedback. Otherwise, I'm also happy to move this be accepted.
Yeah, if I could just speak on that for a second, Tori.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, well done, Katie. It's well written. I mean, we could get semantic things saying that you've got to put in the easements on the walking tracks before you put in the reserves and things like that. But that's council's decision. It's not going to be a quick process, I wouldn't have thought, if they do develop the land or put it into reserves, etc. Howard, I understand you've got some grievance with what the board has come up with. I just can only hope that over time you'll see that this is in the best interest of the community, and it is what the majority of the community wants. And I think this is the best way to get there. So well done, team. And yeah, I'll second you, Tori, if we're all good to vote on it.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
I'd like to respond to Scott. He's obviously addressed me personally. I don't consider I've got grievances with what they've come up with. I've basically looked at what the board has come up and what the community wanted, and the community clearly wanted this land transferred into community council ownership so that community had stronger control over what any use of the land rather than development, where the board has clearly said we neither confirm nor deny development, which is the same as the Americans saying their warships neither confirm nor deny have nuclear weapons. We all know what that means, and we all know by the community board standing up and saying we neither confirm nor deny development is not a statement. It's basically saying development can go ahead. And by saying putting in restrictions, we already know from areas of development like Hallswell and James Drive that any development will be cookie cutter houses, and with the new government rules, restrictions can't be placed on the wholesale development of the area. And I understand, Scott, that you have an interest in this development, and being a builder in the area it's a good idea, and respect your opinion of what the council, what the community believes. I believe it's actually another way, and so I will not support any motion that does not strongly support transfer of this land to the community for any use to be developed with community and council combined. Thank you.
Okay.
Fair dues, mate. Fair call. But
Okay.
Just to let you know, I'm retiring this December, so there'll be no more building from me up there.
Okay, so we've got a mover and seconder, and we've noted that Howard disagree. Sorry, Liz, I'm just looking at you for process. I realise I'm looking at a different screen here.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I've had some headphone problems and then it came up and said it couldn't hear my mic, so that's okay. Yeah, you just need to
move and second.
Move and second. I missed the seconder, sorry. Who was the seconder?
Okay, Scott's the seconder, so I've moved and Scott has seconded.
That's cool. And then if Howard wants to record his vote against or abstain or whatever.
Yeah, from what I understand, Howard, you are voting against this. Is that correct?
Yes, I've definitely voted against it.
Okay, so Howard's voted against it. Can we ask, I do understand Andrew is standing back from this decision, so the rest, can we just please note who else is in favour? So we've got Tyrone, Ruben,
To have
Jamie,
hands
and
raised.
yep, and Jamie, are you? Yep, Jamie is okay. The other 4 is confirmed, so that is carried with those other notes. So thank you everyone. I know it's a hard one, and Howard, I am aware that there is community concerns, and hopefully we can work that out going forward. So thank you.
On a general, on this whole process, I'm actually quite disappointed with the council's handling of this whole process. This decision should have been transferred to the board so that we could have made a recommendation, not just a submission, as with any other parcel of land that's sold. And I generally can't consider that the council and the councillors have actually handled it badly by transferring it to the long-term plan and then to the annual plan. So this has removed the community from a lot of the decision making and left it to the councillors to do it themselves.
Yeah, I do understand the frustration, and I don't disagree with you there. There has been some parts of this that has got massive effects on the community that should have been put through in a different process. So I have already voiced those concerns. So no, thank you, Howard. Now, Penelope, anything further we need to raise within the area report before we go on?
I don't believe so, unless you had any particular questions about anything in there. Oh, sorry, we've got to do Linda Sunderland's appointment as appointment to the museum committee. Is that right?
I'm just trying to find my recommendation.
That could just be noted as part of the main receiving the report. We could just put a part 2 on that.
Yeah, that'd be great if we can put a part 2 on that. And so if there's no other questions for Penelope and team, can I ask for a mover of this report? Ruben's happy to move.
And just to be clear, that the part 2 is that you are acknowledging or endorsing the appointment.
Linda. Yes, okay. So Ruben has moved, and Nigel, are you seconding that? Yes, right. Okay, I can read sign language. So that is moved by Ruben, seconded by Nigel. All those in favour? Aye. Thumbs up. Yep. Thanks. It's carried. Thank you. Right. So now we are going on to members exchange. I know there's a few. Obviously, there's been a lot happening over the last 8 weeks. I think we've had since our last board meeting. So who would like to go first? I've got a list a mile long, but I'll put it to everybody else first. So Ruben, you're at the top of my screen. Would you like to go first? Anything you'd like to share? Or
sure.
Members exchange?
Yeah, I've taken some things off the list because I'm aware timing wise. But just to note that I in the break got along to the AGM for the Littleton Harbour Business Association. So that was a good AGM, and good to see that group continuing with the work that they do. And obviously for them, a large kind of horizon focus is Sale GP. I also heard from, we talked some last year around an application to move the market from the Collett's Corner site down into the Albion Square site, and that process is frustratingly slow currently for the person who's trying to move the market. So it would be great for us to get an update on what's happening there, but from the sounds of things, they're not having great updates or kind of follow up on where that process is at. Is there an action we can raise on that?
I've just noted to ask for an update.
Great. Also, Littleton via Project Littleton has now has a carbon coach, which I think with our goals around managing, our environmental impact and climate change is pretty exciting for Littleton, and what that might show us and how we might be able to change some of the things we do. Probably the biggest one, and I've saved it to last, is RMCs, and in particular Urumo RMC, so Littleton Reserve Management Committee. I've had a conversation, a number of people have contacted me with concerns or issues with regards access to or working within or neighbouring the reserve. And I wondered whether, given that the RMC is currently, well, there's a little bit of confusion, is probably the best way to put it, around whether they can hold meetings or not. So there was, I thought, a really good email that came through from you, Katie, that talked about being unable to hold in-person meetings. And then I've spoken with the Littleton Reserve Management Committee, and the 9.8 of the standing orders says members who attend meetings by electronic link will not be counted as present for the purposes of a quorum.
No, I'll just stop you there, Reuben. That we've got special orders in place because of COVID, which of course the board can meet as well. So there's additional government orders that are overriding that at the current time.
Excellent.
So
that's what that's what I expected. So so that's great. So then, is there any staff support available to any of the RMCs who might need some support to be able to move their meetings into an online environment?
Probably not physical staff support as in running the meeting, but certainly, you know, Katie and Linda are both really good with technical stuff and could help with advice and things.
Yeah.
Meetings are pretty easy. I mean, we all know we've been operating in the Zoom environment.
Yeah.
So,
well, they're potentially much easier to chair as well, because you can actually mute people, which isn't always the case in in-person meetings.
Reuben, we did explore this with the Urumo RMC during the, I forget what it's called now, before we went to traffic lights. And there were too many people to be able to fit in the boardroom, and they were wondering if they could use council technology to be able to create a Zoom in the board meeting with some people attending and some by Zoom. And the answer was that no, we weren't able to run that for them in the way that this meeting is run by our support staff. Sure. So they chose at that point to meet in a larger environment.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I guess the answer I can go back with is terms of reference have changed. So, standing orders have changed. So it is possible for the meetings.
The legislation has changed.
Yeah.
And the special legislation in place at the moment. But certainly they could contact us if they want some advice and help on how to set a Zoom meeting or a Facebook meeting or something like that.
Yeah.
And we could help with that.
Cool. Okay, that's me.
Thank you, Reuben. Appreciate that, you know, we've all still had to squeeze in a few things in the Christmas period, as well as try and catch up with friends and family. So next one I have is Jamie. Do you have anything to share at this stage?
I haven't had a lot of things raised. The storm, you know, been so much discussion on the storm over on the Eastern Bays, you know, and what a terrible time for that to happen, you know, when Akaroa, you know, is sort of entering into the summer season. And it was so isolated. I mean, it was like Akaroa as a township was completely missed by the storm. Even though we got it, it was nothing like what happened on the Eastern Bays. And you know, so many reports and people coming and talking about it, and there was a lot of email traffic and things like that from Pam, and we were kept in the loop, you know, pretty well with that. But it was just such an isolated event, absolutely incredible. But as far as the summer season, I don't think there was any major issues. You know, the normal ones that we get around the boat ramp and rubbish bins and things like that. Really wasn't aware of any issues or complaints that were sort of brought to our attention. Clary and Paddy on the rubbish truck, you know, multiple times a day, just driving around the town, doing a pretty thankless job all day, driving that smelly old rubbish truck around. So they did an amazing job. I did have a resident talk to me about a property on the corner of Rue Jolly and Bruce Terrace, which is the vacant land opposite the school, said that there's old man's beard growing out of control there, and what am I going to do about it? He did say that he had been in and talked to the team at the service centre, but nothing had happened. And I just wonder, because that's private property, where does the council sort of fit in with that sort of thing? I mean, I expect they can't just start jumping fences and spraying and pulling out on someone's private property. Is that fair, or is it a weed that really can be controlled by council staff on a vacant property? Any advice there, Liz? I could do a snap send solve, but I just thought, well, it's already been reported. I can do it again. Is it something that we can take action on?
I had devolved on my property, and the council doesn't care unless it's a noxious weed. And I don't think old man's beard's a noxious weed, so they won't do anything.
Yeah, I believe it is.
I believe it is.
Yeah, it might be.
Over here.
If it's classified as an invasive for them to touch it, because convolvulus is just as noxious, and they won't touch it. As far as they're concerned, if it's on private property, it's private property.
Okay, this was a question to Liz. Okay, Liz, if we got anything we can.
Sorry, I'm having some technical issues here, but where was the property, Jamie? Where are you talking about?
It's the vacant property on the corner of Rue Jolly and Bruce Terrace, across the road from the school. The one that used to have that big tree that got cut down.
Oh yeah, the walnut tree. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's not council property.
Yes,
it's not, but it's growing out through the fence onto the footpath area, and just if we could maybe get someone to have a look at it. The residents just a bit concerned.
Yep. I think you need to actually report it to ECAN.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. ECAN
people, and they'll have a similar system to what the council has got for reporting issues. If you could just go onto their website, or whoever's concerned, go onto their website and report it through there.
So would a snap send solve do the trick?
No, because that comes to the council and it needs to go to the
ECAN. You can snap send solve. You can snap send solve ECAN. So it's through the same app.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I'm happy to do that. I'll go and take some photos and send it off, and just at least the resident can see that we're trying to, do something for them to help them out. Another question, interestingly, on the street lights, the LED lights in Akaroa. I noticed that a lot of the long fluorescent lights still haven't been changed out around Akaroa, and just a question on what the timeline is, I guess, to finish that rollout. Everything else has been done and is just fantastic. And we talk about the light pollution. I think those are the worst. And be nice to know if we get an update on the status of the LED rollout into Akaroa, please. Perhaps they're waiting on lights, I'm not sure, or maybe they've forgotten they're there. Certainly up Julius Place by the old primary school, they stand out pretty big time there.
I think that Julius Place is actually private right away. That might be part of the issue. Maybe they're not going to be replaced, but yeah, from the school gates, the old school gates. But I'll check with their with Andy Cameron, was the project manager there. I'll come and see what's happening.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. But no, nothing else from me, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate it. Next on my screen, I've got Howard. Do you have any updates for anything that's happened over Christmas? Rooms exchange.
Well, most people have been pretty avoidant, but the main conversations around have been about COVID and support structures that the communities are putting in. Seem to be a bit disjointed, and the problems being that who people are going to contact if they have to basically self-isolate and they haven't got personal support, or basically elderly people who are having to renew prescriptions or something like that, who are isolating once Omicron comes in. There's a lot of elderly over here that are basically going to self-isolate even though they haven't got the disease, simply because it is, a risk to themselves, self-protection. And there doesn't seem to be a centralised place that can direct people to local support, if you know what I mean. I'm not sure what the rest of the EU communities are doing. But the general response seems to be, well, each community seems to be working individual. So maybe if the council or someone could actually have a phone list that they could direct, or even, councillor can have a phone list that they can direct people to contact in their area, there may be a bit of help in that area. That was one of the main concerns, was who people are going to contact in the area. Basically, they're saying, oh, it'll be like the earthquake, check your neighbours, but there might be elderly who are kind of stuck in their house that are kind of missed out, like we've had with the rainfall.
Yeah, Howard, you've made
getting spotted.
A good point. Yep.
There's
So
actually,
Liz and Penelope,
again, there's some really good information, excuse me, on the Ministry of Health website. I know that luckily we have used that. They are suggesting that you set up neighbourhood groups that are exactly those people that are older and vulnerable, people who might need help if they are self-isolating or
but Liz,
have to stay home.
I'm also recalling at the start of COVID, back in 2020, the council promoted a list of local groups. I remember seeing Kerry on it for Akaroa. We did have a list at one point that we did send out. Okay, it was 2020 when COVID first hit, we all went into lockdown. We did send out some welfare checklists or contact lists. So I understand what Howard's doing, just saying, can we bring that up again? Because people are choosing to self-isolate, and that if they still need welfare check, that kind of thing, that we can bring up the stuff that we had back at the start of COVID when we all went into lockdown. So can I just find some of those documents?
We can send you some links.
Yeah, the Diamond Harbour community page and Facebook page and site has a lot of information with the local institutions and entities to get a hold of in emergencies, and if you need food supplies and all that, which is quite good to point out to residents.
And I also know that the Akaroa Herald does have information in that from time to time, so we might need to flag them again just to reprint some information in that. So no, thank you, Howard. I do agree that.
And I also recommend that the council once again reignite. What was the name of it? Heafy Trust. They can provide a lot of support to the community. What was it? I can't remember the name of that trust. I've lost it. Oh, it doesn't matter. So, okay. No, that's cool. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Howard.
Can I just quickly say that
Creasy Trust, that's the one.
The Creasy Trust, yes.
Yeah, if they can put that on their website again, just advising people that if they need help, they can financially help them, especially the elderly over 65.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Howard.
A lot of the most vulnerable don't have computers.
They
so
don't.
A lot of the stuff is not accessible.
That was part of the communication that we were discussing, in how to actually, because a lot of elderly people who need minor help won't actually ask, how do you actually get to these people? And all they need is, say, their prescription renewed or a loaf of bread dropped off. It's finding these people, and that seems to be the big discussion, because there's a lot that are going to go into isolation. So,
and it's once again local activation.
That's being discussed at the moment that I'm finding.
Yep. No, and it's once again, it's local activation, and there will be some people in the community that have stepped up in the past. I mean, we remember with earthquakes, there was a few people in the community that stepped up and took on those roles. So it's reactivating those people and helping the ones that we do know about. No, thank you, Howard. Next person I've got on my screen is Andrew. Thank you. Happy to.
Tori, thank you very much. So the first two things I had on my list we've already covered. One was Steadfast and the other was the Eastern Bays. Clearly, I've been involved in some conversations outside of this meeting on both of those. And I'm going over to Le Bons Bay on Thursday of this week. That was the one set of residents that we didn't get to on the bigger visit that I made. So we're going back, and I'm going back with council staff and Fulton Hogan staff to visit the Le Bons Bay residents on Thursday. The visit I did make took me along Long Bay Road down to Otanerito, which allowed me to see the extent of the damage at the bottom of the valley, all of the debris that had washed down. Long Bay Road, some major slips there, but some huge work done by Fulton Hogan to remediate the road carriageway, the metalling, and to restore access. In some cases, the road actually been put back some meters distant from where the road was previously, because the road that the land originally stood on just doesn't exist anymore. So some huge work done there. Also allowed us to take a longer view of some of the other damage to the reserve at Hinawai. Then we went to the Johns Farm to meet the residents of Goffs Bay. We had already visited Marie Haley's property at the top of Goffs Bay. The visit to the Johns Farm allowed me to have a look at the temporary access which has been put in, which again is another major piece of work, essentially upgrading a rough farm track into a road which is capable of being driven by residents and four-wheel drive vehicles. So that's another huge piece of work there. And also I noted the relatively large amount of work that's been done on Marie Haley's property to put access across their land down to the house. So actually work that is being done on private land to reinstate access so that Marie and her family can get in and out in a four-wheel drive vehicle as well. Then we went up to the cab stand where I met residents mainly from Hickory Bay. We didn't go down to Hickory, but we met those residents there. And as I say, going back to Le Bon's on Thursday of this week to really complete the suite of visits. The website's been updated weekly, work is ongoing. Of course, some of the work has been slowed down by the recent rains. Some of the work can't continue when the ground's wet. So there's a couple of bits of reinstatement and remediation work that haven't been able to proceed as quickly as we might have hoped because of the continued wet weather. So that's just an update on that one. Now, I had an email from a resident about the state of the tunnel in Littleton. So cleanliness of the tunnel, this is something that we've heard about before, but also in particular, the state of the tunnel access at both ends. So weeds and dirt and a generally unkept look, lack of maintenance. And I note even the new landscaping to the roundabout at the Littleton end of the tunnel already is full of weeds and thistles, and it just looks terrible. And the planted areas on the other side of the city, on the other side of the tunnel at the city entrance, also look as if they're just getting no maintenance at all. And then you've got the central reservation on the motorway, which is outside the tunnel. The formal planting was taken out some time ago, and nothing was reinstated. And that also is just full of thistles and weeds and just overgrown and looks pretty terrible. So I don't know when we're next meeting with Whakakotahi, but maybe this is something that we should be raising with them. The answer we've always had about the tiles on the inside of the tunnel is that they're showing signs of their age. And I know from trips that I take through there late at night that, they do the weekly maintenance, mechanically cleaning those tiles. It's just they don't come as clean as they used to do. But some of this issue with the landscaping, I think, really is an appearance issue that you'd think could be quite easily resolved with a better maintenance regime. So I don't know whether the board wants to go anywhere with that. Have we got any meeting with Whakakotahi and ZTA coming up in the near future?
Ms. We haven't got anything planned at this point, but we could certainly send a message through to them asking about that, because the maintenance of the gardens and things, I presume.
I was also hoping that there was going to be some feedback from their State Highway 75 submissions that they were going to give to the board at some point. So whether we can chase NZTA in general, because there's no doubt a few things that are affecting, both the State Highway speed stuff and, as Andrew said, the tunnel and surrounding areas that are on NZTA property. So if we could ask for a follow-up with them, that would be good, because we have had conversations with them just last year and would like to continue those on a semi-regular basis. And I thought we had sort of said that we'd like to continue those semi-regularly, just to give feedback that we're receiving from our residents and
meeting. I agree with Toru and Andrew. A meeting with Whakakotahi would, and some questions to get answered would be great to give back to residents and feedback. A lot of them have to do with roading that I get. So that'd be good.
Sorry, Andrew, we didn't mean to take over.
That's all right. And I mean, there's the other issue of the update on the Norwich Quay speed limit change as well, because we've got our own 40k speed limit signs, just with duct tape over the sign at the moment so that you can't read it as 40. Again, it just looks unprofessional. It looks tatty. It's unfinished business. We want to see it sorted. So yeah, I think a meeting with Waka Kotahi, and if we can let them know as we're setting up that meeting, that one of the things that we want to discuss is maintenance and appearance, not only of the tunnel, but also of the tunnel entrances and the state highway from the Ferry Mead roundabout coming up to the tunnel entrance as well. All right, so that's good. And then a couple of other things. Maybe just one other thing, actually. Oh, no, two. The Akaroa Museum funding will be something that particularly Akaroa members have probably had quite a bit of conversation about, and I certainly have. I'm pleased to be able to advise that when the draft annual plan goes in front of councillors later this month for approval as the draft for consultation, the reinstatement of the $40,000 operational funding for the Akaroa Museum will be there. So that $40,000 funding is proposed by staff to be reinstated and will be contained within the draft when it comes in front of councillors for approval for consultation. So given informal discussions, I'm hopeful that we will have a draft for consultation which will propose the reinstatement of the $40,000 funding for the Akaroa Museum. And then finally, Tori and I met with Mike Norris. That was one of the things that we talked about at that meeting. But the other thing we talked about was the Akaroa Wharf consultation and some confusion around what decision making on that looks like. I mean, clearly the submissions are going somewhere. And I note that there's a meeting proposed, a special meeting proposed for the board to consider those submissions. And I also note that in the governance manager's update for this afternoon, there's talk about the board making a decision. Now, what's the actual process here? Is the board making a decision, or is the board making a recommendation to council, who in turn will make a decision? Or is the board sitting as a hearings panel of itself that then makes a hearings panel recommendation to council? I know Mike was both confused and concerned about this. And I guess I'm flagging that I'm also confused and concerned about what the role of the board is in terms of hearing submissions and making either a recommendation or a decision. The board being a submitter itself or not. And where the final decision's made, whether it's at the community board or whether it's at the council. So I guess what I'm asking for is some clarification around that particular point.
Sorry, I thought that we had clarified that, maybe not. It will be, what the plan is to have schedule another meeting to just for the board just to consider that, and it'll be a part A to council.
Right, so this is in the Community Governance Manager's update this afternoon. So, here we go. Akaroa Wharf Report, Part A to Council. Staff are suggesting an additional meeting will be held to consider the report and hear deputations. A suitable date would be Monday, the 4th of April at 1 p.m. Staff are asking the board for informal agreement, and the decision will then be made by the board chair and community governance manager under delegation. Presumably that means the Part A recommended the decision about.
No, that's just the decision.
Council
about holding the meeting.
Council are going to make
It's about holding the meeting.
Council are the final decision maker on this, but they're not going to hear the submissions. And the board is acting as a hearings panel, but it's not going to be constituted as a hearings panel. Just seems like a very interesting process to me.
Okay, it's the board is acting as the board, having its own meeting and exactly hearing the submitters, but as deputations, and then we'll make a Part A recommendation to council.
So that means that council could change that recommendation in whatever way it wanted without having heard the submissions. Whereas if we ran a hearings panel process, the recommendation from the hearings panel would either be approved by council or sent back to the hearings panel. I think there's some, I mean, Mike's concern was that there was the potential for some error, some error of natural justice, I guess, between council being the final decision maker but having not heard the submissions. I mean, maybe it's fine, and maybe there are other. I mean, the cycleways is certainly one where this has been done before, but it's generally been one board or more than one board, and yeah, I don't know. Just given that there's going to be some contention, and some of the submissions are raising contentious issues, I think we need to be really clear on process, particularly if council saw fit to make changes to a Part A resolution or not accept it in the way that they could, in the way that they wouldn't be able to make changes to a hearings panel recommendation.
Look, we can go back to staff and ask why it has been decided to do it that way. If you recall, with Naval Point development, it was similar, although a lot of that was actually delegated decisions that the board, but there was a Part A component of that.
Yeah.
It's very unusual for council to change a Part A without reason, or perhaps even without coming back to the board or boards.
Yeah, would it not be unusual?
But that's not to say that it couldn't happen.
To be heard by the community board as deputations, rather than being heard by a hearings panel who makes a recommendation to council. I don't know. I mean, I may be wrong, but I just throw it out there because I know that people in Akaroa are concerned about it, and we're going to need to be very clear about it and make sure that it works and satisfies submitters who know processes and who are already concerned that the final decision maker is not going to be, or the way the decision is made could allow changes by a decision maker who hasn't heard from submitters.
Okay, we will go back and ask again. It was my understanding that council can actually change a recommendation from a hearings panel as well, or certainly add to it. I think that's what happened with the wastewater. But look, we'll go back to staff and just suss that out. We had asked if people wanted to make a deputation to council instead of going to the board, could that happen? And I was told that yes, it could. So instead of coming to the board when they were making their part of the decision, they could go to council, but that's not really satisfactory because then the board wouldn't hear those submitters. So
yeah, but I have a feeling that there will, having had the conversation with Mike and knowing some of the concerns in Akaroa, if people were given that opportunity, I think they probably would take it. And then, there's a real danger there that the board has got the opportunity to give weight to some submissions and not hear others. That might influence the board's recommendation. And then the weight that council chooses to give to individual submitters who choose to submit to council alongside the community board recommendation may be seen to favour those submitters over those that submitted to the board. So I think, that probably highlights exactly the point that I'm making.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. And I just wanted to clarify that the board governance manager and chair can only make approvals on when to set a date for hearing that or having an extra meeting. It wasn't to do with the actual conclusion of submissions. So it was just regarding dates and times to hold another meeting. Yeah, just to clarify that. But yes, I do agree with what Andrew is saying, that there is confusion and there's also concern. So thank you, Andrew. Next person I've got on my screen is Tyrone. Tyrone, I'm just going to start you off, but I'm going to just leave my video for a second. I need to get my charger for the video conference. I can hear you, but I'll let you start off. And if you see my chair is empty, I'm just getting the charger cable. So just go ahead.
Sure thing. Thanks, Tori. Kia ora, everybody. Look, I know it's been said at the start of the meeting, but I just want to acknowledge again the passing of Peter Ramsden. As a man who cared deeply about our whenua, and it's very sad that he's been taken away. I was very fortunate to visit Kokorarata. I was welcomed onto the marae there and to pay my respects, and paid respects on behalf of the board. And actually among the people paying respects at the time when I was there was the Mayor, Leanne Dalziel, as well. So it just goes to show, what a highly regarded man he was. So just wanted to acknowledge that. So in no particular order, there is a meeting for the Littleton Seafarers Welfare Committee is finally convening. Okay, so that's been stood up after the change in the legislation last year that this board supported. So first meeting for that is on the 23rd of Feb, and I understand, am I the board delegate for that?
That's from memory, you are, yes.
Right, so I would like to seek an officer position on that committee. Is that possible?
Sorry, I don't understand what you're asking.
Well, in the election of officers, would I have to, like, I'd have to forego, but like I can be on that committee as a private individual, right? And if I am, then I can't be the board delegate.
From my understanding, you can be both, because
because sometimes
you can definitely be both.
Okay, cool. Right,
it's just a liaison role.
Signaling my intention. Okay, cool. So just signaling my intention there. So that's cool. Just some comments on Steadfast. So, like, I know that's been talked about quite a lot. I don't really want to add too much more to it, but like, I just really just don't want to see that turn into another godly house. Like, it's, you know, it's almost like we're getting to the stage of like, never let community aspiration get in the way of a bit of good solid bit of bureaucracy. And I just really want to say that, you know, all the parties are lined up there. So, you know, I've really I've talked to Chris and Jenny privately about what's going on there, and like, and staff are doing a good job, and I just really want to make sure that gets through. I just want an update actually on so this is next topic. So if everyone knows where Windy Point is, just out of Littleton, there's a so the work that's been done on Sumner Road, there's not really a safe passage for pedestrians from the town, if you like, from Reserve Terrace or from Sumner Road up to Windy Point. And I just was wondering, so a few people have raised this with me, and I'm just wondering if there's any work to be done there to just to sort of improve that access to the point up there, or if it's something that we need to kind of look at a board level through, you know, the annual plan process and that sort of stuff, LTP. So I'm just not quite sure about that. So everyone needs some advice there.
We can ask the question.
Can I back you up there, Tyrone? I this morning actually stopped and took some pictures of a rockfall, which is in one of the lanes and blocking pedestrians, or if they just decided to take the road path. So yeah, I agree. It is an issue, and it's going to be ongoing, especially with these more climate events and heavy rains and things.
I mean, there's just some generally sketchy roading just around there. If everyone knows the turn onto Reserve Terrace from Sumner Road, and I know that there were some difficulties with that over the Christmas period. So, but they've been resolved. But just be keen to look at sort of safer pedestrian access up towards Windy Point. Just on the Naval Point thing, so I had some calls over the Christmas period actually from users of the slipway there, the boat ramp, just around congestion, and so hence my question to Richard earlier. I'm just and you'll note from Richard's response is that he had some concerns as well about around how the plans kind of sort of, you know, how it's developing over there. Do we have any? I'm not quite sure the point I want to make. It's just that, like, do we have any concerns around the layout out there that might need to be addressed, and do we have a method of addressing them should they exist? Because it seems like the users aren't happy.
If I could respond to that. So you have received some information about the discussions and interactions that have been going on around Naval Point. There are many more users than who you heard from this morning. And if you would like a more detailed conversation or perhaps a briefing from staff around the whole Naval Point development, then I'm sure we can arrange something.
Can I also...
Do we have one scheduled? Please carry on. Who was
Sorry, can I also just state, talking to some council staff and some other users down at Naval Point, I kind of back up what Penny's saying. There's plenty of users, and I mean, today we heard a deposition from one party, and there's been a lot of information floating around to people using Naval Point that hasn't been quite correct, and it's upset quite a few people. So I think, we tread carefully here and get the right information going forward.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Look, I mean, I'm just responding to, I guess I'm just sort of hearing some stuff, and I'm just kind of responding. And it'd be nice to get a balanced view there. So, do we have something coming to the board anytime?
No, there's no briefing in the short term, but we'll see what we can do.
It'd be nice to get an update there at some point, just to keep abreast of what's happening there.
Sure.
So that's cool. Thank you. And just the ongoing concerns about noisy road users, just in the roads around that's probably the thing that we get the most calls about, really, the boy racer issue, if you like, and just ongoing issues there. I always tell people just to call it into the police, but or call them ring the number, and but it does seem to be an ongoing problem and forever, and I just wonder if we're ever going to get to the bottom of it.
Okay, I do understand
so many complaints.
We are having a catch up with the police soon in the next couple of months. So feeding back any questions that did come through to Katie. Did send out an email last week, I think it was Katie, that sent out questions that we do have for our upcoming meeting with the police. So that would be one of the ones. Sorry, Linda. Thank you. Okay, anything, is that the lot for you, Tyrone?
Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, my screen has changed around again. So I think the next on my screen is Scott. View.
Sorry. Team. I'll keep it real brief. I'll just do the top three. So the chair of the Port Levy Residents Association has put in a ticket number. Liz, did you receive that ticket number that I sent you, 510520, regarding to the stones all over the verges that they cannot mow anymore?
No, I didn't. When did you send that?
Okay, I'll send that back to on Saturday, I think it was. I'll resend it, but just basically Foldenhagen have graded they graded it last month, the road, which they're grateful for, but they've put stones all over the side of the verges so the residents can't mow them. They then rake them all back out, and it's happened again. And they've put a ticket number in, and they said it was resolved and nothing's actually been done. So as the chair of Port Levy Residents Association, I think we should get in there and give them a helping hand, or give anyone a helping hand. But second thing, so I've been appointed trustee for the Te Ahu Patiki Park, the new 500 hectare park between Mount Bradley and Mount Herbert. We've had one board meeting. We've got our second board meeting this Wednesday, where we will come up with a plan to sign the deed for the new park in association with Rod Donald Trust and Ngati Wheki and Alden Bradley Park. We've signed a $204,000 contract so far for fencing to go ahead, and that was raised with funds that Rod Donald managed to raise when they went out looking for funds to purchase the park, and we obviously managed to get a lot more funds than we originally intended. So we've got maintenance scheduled for 3 years, and we're just sort of setting the board up right now. The trustees are all putting in their bits and pieces and getting where we'd like to start as a board for the park and where we'd like to be in 10 years. So that's all coming together. What was the other thing? There was one more. Oh, and can I please request information for the derelict abandoned building that sits in front of 23 Prairie Road in Port Levy? I've sent Katie an email with a picture of where it is, if anyone's wants to know just some information, because residents in Port Levy were told a year ago by council staff that the building would be demolished and removed, and then the squatters, I guess you'd call them, that have been staying there, informed everybody over Christmas when they're harassing them that the council have told them that they can stay there now. So there's just a little bit of concern of what's going on. So if we can get some information back to them, that'd be great. That's it. Next person.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Building renovations going on in your background, obviously. Okay.
I'm on a building site, pretty much.
Hey, Scott, just before we go on, are there squatters in that house?
There are, yeah. They claim to be, part something to do through family with the original leaseholders, but yeah, they're not very friendly.
I question whether they're allowed to stay there under the Residential Tenancy Act. As soon as they move in, aren't they become residents? So therefore, they are subject to the Residential Tenancy Act.
Oh, I'd agree with you, mate. But I mean, guys, yeah, I went down there to talk to them, and I'm a big guy, and I felt threatened.
Okay.
So yeah, leave it.
Can we take that offline, perhaps, maybe, guys? And when you have a catch up, we need to carry on.
We'll discuss it down at the pub.
Right, you got, yep. Okay, thank you. Nigel, have you got anything to share at this stage?
Yeah, I just want to say well done, Andrew, to getting over here and talking to the people in the bays and continuing that conversation. I think what's really important is that it comes with an action plan and that it just doesn't turn into another conversation. And it's also highlighting where our concerns we've had as a board around emergency situations, and the fire risk is still there in all other areas. Robinson's Bay is putting together some sort of a plan in their community. It'd be nice to find out how that goes and have this conversation going forward, so we are doing the right thing and learning from this mistake and carrying on. The other thing, I thank you again, Andrew, for coming over and having discussions with the Civic Trust and the actions around reinstatement of that funding for the museum. It's a big issue, and obviously there is a lot of worry about, and everybody in the community, about the wharf. It's not just the Civic Trust and the heritage side. The wharf is a character feature, and it's a jewel in the crown of Akarā Bay, and it has to be a living, functional wharf with character. And it's how we get to there is very important, because it's not all about the heritage, but it has to be functional and have character. And I agree that the process really needs to be thought through pretty carefully. And that's about all I've got to say today.
Thank you, Nigel, for keeping that brief. Yeah, I think is that everybody, or have I missed somebody? No, I think that's everybody. I have got a couple of things to go through. I am aware of the time. Just regarding the storm.
Some extra time built in.
Yes, I know, but there's also, we'd be good to have lunch and get through. But just a couple of things for me, just regarding the storm. Yes, I did have phone conversations myself with John Fussell and Pam Richardson early on in the piece. So I was aware of what was going on, but I basically got told to just stand by. In my capacity, I couldn't do a lot. But I did have a conversation with Alan Cameron from our roading team. I happened to bump into him at the Little River CAF on the way to, I was heading into town. He was going out to the Eastern Bays on the Monday of the event. And he was explaining to me why Fulton Hogan couldn't stay on over Christmas, because the poor team had worked so hard all year that they needed some time off, but they were having subcontractors on the ground during that Christmas period. So it was good to have a catch up with him and just, hear from on the ground what was going on. So that was great. Akarā Wharf. Nigel, can I just get you put on mute for a second? I'm getting feedback in my ear. Thank you. Just regarding Akarā Wharf submissions, I do back up what Andrew was saying, that it is a bit confusing and concerning. So more clarity regarding that. I have had contact from a few residents regarding festivals and raves on private properties. Now, I do know we're kind of limited to what we can do from a council point of view. I did say to the resident concerned, they are a neighbour of area that has festivals, but they're concerned that, I said perhaps we can raise it with noise control, but they're concerned that there is a rave planned for the start of March that is meant to be a several day thing, 2 or 3 days from what I understand, during these COVID times. And it's highly likely that... Has it been canned?
Yep.
The local one in Little River here?
Yep, it's been canned. Mallow Festival's been canned, yep.
Okay, that's fine. But they have got ongoing concerns about these bigger events in a rural setting affecting noise pollution and also roading, because there's not much off-street parking. A lot of cars and congestion do end up affecting what's going on in the area, and neighbours don't get told that these things are happening until they find out through third parties that it's been advertised through Facebook or whatever. So thanks for that, Scott. I was quite concerned that there was going to be a rave happening during red light setting. So but yeah, ongoing concerns, and that's come from multiple people in that Akiti Valley area, that there's issues.
I think perhaps, Tori, that council staff or someone could have a chat with Little River Campground, because they're the one that are behind all the organisation of it. So obviously they get a financial. So yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to take it up with the organisers, they're the people to see.
Yeah, no, we know that. It's just that in what capacity does council have any control about what's happening on private land? So the big concerns would be traffic management and noise pollution affecting neighbours that don't even get told that these things are happening until the day they happen. There was a concern coming up from the local fire brigade regarding Brittmyers Road. There was an incident happened over there over Christmas. Brittmyers Road actually starts at Kinloch Road and ends in Cooptown on the state highway. However, there's no road in between. So they've been concerned that when you get told Brittmyers Road, they actually generally go to the Kinloch end, which is a few minutes in the opposite direction where the accident actually happened. So is there any way we can look at whether there's a south-north idea around the same road name? It is very confusing, especially to the local fire service that are trying to get there for an emergency and get told to go to Brittmyers Road when actually they mean the Cooptown end rather than the Kinloch end. So that was just a concern that's come up. So I don't know how we start that conversation, Liz, or how we can forward it on the concerns onto staff. It's a confusing one because it does go across private property in the middle. It doesn't actually have start and end. It just, yeah.
It might be one that where it's better to actually rename the ends of it, because it can, it can be a matter of life and death if you're waiting on emergency services. So
and there is a lot of places around the peninsula like that. So no, if we can find out how that process starts, that'd be great. Birdlings Flat wastewater discharge. Now I've had several residents contact me again over Christmas about their letters regarding the consenting process for renewing their consent to discharge their septic tanks. And the concern is that why do they have to keep paying renewals every 10, 15 years when their neighbour next door doesn't have any consent to discharge, and they can continue doing on because they've had that house built 25 years ago rather than 15 years ago. So I was wondering if by any chance we can get a on the ground between ECAN and CCC with the residents in Birdlings Flat. I know it's a bit hard to during COVID times. However, this has come from multiple residents that have had these ongoing issues, and that's one neighbour against another neighbour. And why do I have to do it? Why don't they have to do it? Why do we have to do it all together? Yes, it would have come through in LIM and builder consent reports, but from my understanding, when this came to the board at the end of last year, I thought we were asking for an extension of the current consents, not please give them permission to get a new consent. I'm confused, and that's me, and I have a little bit more information than the residents. The residents are confused as well. So further information from staff.
Yeah. Yep. So maybe we could look at maybe doing a drop-in or having an opportunity for the residents to actually speak in person, but that will depend on the red alert, the settings.
Yeah, and the other thing is it would be with both ECAN and CCC, because I feel like we're getting different messages from both parties. So thank you. And the only last one is that I was at the first meeting of the year for the Coastal Hazards Working Party, and the feedback that they got from the Peninsula residents about moving swiftly into the coastal hazards adaptation work on the peninsula is a good thing, whereas a lot of the residents from the South Shore, New Brighton area said, please hold until other stuff's being done. I think, especially since this work is starting on the peninsula, it is good to have that feedback from peninsula residents saying, please start and get on with the work. So, hey, it's good to hear, and it's good work moving forward, and the fact that it's being done. And I think that's the last of what I have to say today. Ruben, can I get you to close with a final karakia? And that is our meeting for the 14th of February. Ruben.
Sure, thanks, Tori. Kia whakaaria te tapu, kia wātia ai te ara, kia tūriki whakataha ai, kia tūriki whakataha ai, haumie, huie, tākia.
Yeah. Kia ora. Thank you, Ruben, and thank you everyone for being part of the meeting this morning.
Tori, can I just note I'll be an apology for the briefings this afternoon. We've got a council audit and risk management committee